They only actually do the thing once it's done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. You gonna kick us off?
I am going to kick you off. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So welcome everyone. This is a meeting of the Amherst Cultural Council. My name is Angela Mills and I work for the town manager here in the town of Amherst. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the town of Amherst YouTube channel by our wonderful IT staff. You are able to meet by Zoom due to suspension of certain open meeting laws by the governor's office. At this time, I would like to thank everyone for their hard work and acknowledge our chair, Julian Applegate.
Hey, glad to have everyone here. Thank you, Angela. Appreciate you. I believe you're already recording it, right?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, so we'll start off with our roll call and we'll let you know whether we need the meeting on Wednesday or not at the end of this session, Angela.
Sounds perfect. Good luck.
Thank you. Gonna need it. All right, starting from the top, Cody.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bill.
Here.
Welcome. Evelyn.
Here.
Thank you. Rachel.
I'm here.
Excellent. Eleanor.
Here.
Thank you. Doe, only reply if you're in a safe place because you're driving. We can get back to your audio, which was working earlier. Just be safe. All right. So where did we leave things? And I'd like to do an actual intro of Doe when he's not driving. All right, so where we left things last week was I think we had about 14 more grants that still needed to be reviewed by the group. And then there were a handful that we said that we were going to circle back to and discuss again. We'd have rough numbers out there for how much we would like to grant to various grantees. And at the last look, of the 60,000 that we have to grant, that's officially been put into the annual report, those funds. There's a couple other things we'll have to get to before we finalize everything. The running total with at least 20 grants or so, with no numbers assigned to them, we're over by about 15,000. So there's going to be some work to do around that. To remind everyone of the schedule and what needs to happen when. I can't remember if I went into detail about this in an email, but it's probably still worth kind of going through one more time. We have an annual, every LCC has an annual report that's due mid-January. And within that report, we need to basically have by then all of the grants that are approved and the exact amounts that we're awarding to be able to get to the grand total of the exact amount that we're awarding for the grant cycle. So with that, usually what we do is we vote on kind of a final slate, or in some cases a semi-final slate of, all right, we've discussed all of these, now we're reviewing all the numbers, they add up to this. And at that point, we would be able to vote and get enough votes to move forward with those allocations. So at the same time, there is anyone who is not receiving funding needs to be notified, and they have 2 weeks to be able to appeal that directly with MCC. So it's really that appeal process that's driving kind of the urgency to get all of this finalized, because I mean, 2 weeks from now is the end of the year. And if we should have to review any appeals and make any adjustments, we would have to then, find money from other grants and kind of reallocate some funds to that. That said, for all the years that I have been here, we don't generally have a volume of appeals. I mean, they do happen. And so far, I've not had one that's actually been approved by the MCC. So, you know, it's the process. Anyone who has an issue is entitled to appeal, and I would encourage people to do so. And yet, just from our perspective, I haven't actually been through a successful appeal yet to have to make these changes. So for what we're going to do tonight, the goals are, number one, to finish discussing the grants that we've not discussed at all yet. Two, circle back to the grants that we'd said to circle back to. And out of those two categories, I'd like to try to, continue with kind of the rough estimates of what we'd like to award, right? And see where we are with what the grand total is versus where we need to be. Then, if we have time, as we're going along, Bill did some fantastic work around categorization. I spent some time on that in addition, trying to get them to where we can actually take a look together. And a little nervous about it because I'm not the best at math. Again, I'm your fashion designer here doing math. I think my Excel works pretty good, but basically we've got, once we can plug in these grants that haven't been discussed yet for our big categories, right? We've got totals for how much is going to all music, how much is going to theater, how much is going to literature, how much is going to cultural events, like from different ethnic groups, et cetera. And then I've kind of taken a look at, specifically music. For music, we have a breakdown, how much classical, how much contemporary, how much choral, blah, blah, blah. Much world music, so we can kind of look, and I don't know if Rachel confirmed if she could get to this today, to my way of thinking, both the big categories and then a little bit down into some of the subcategories, should align with the survey that Rachel led efforts to do a little over a year ago with the community of what's the community asking for? What is it that they think brings, benefit to the community? So we can look at it that way. There's also a little bit of kind of sorting based on what's in our public schools for youth events. What's, I forget, I'm not looking at it. One of the areas we keep talking about year in, year out really wasn't in play a whole lot from what I'm seeing this year, which is certain groups and locations in particular, kind of having a real saturation of grantees that are putting on events there. When I kind of started looking at those locations that we asked ourselves in prior years, really, how much of our funding is going to go to an event that's happening at this center or that one? There wasn't a lot of that. And the other thing that was great news is, while there are regional events, we could look at that. Overall, kind of glancing through, there's a lot that's really truly happening in Amherst that people have requested funding for. So, yeah. So, and did I say that at a very, very minimum, I'd like to be certain by the end of the meeting tonight of who the denial letters are going out to, which would put us in the position of, even if we don't get to the final total tonight, then we would at least know that we have the intention of funding everybody who's not on that list. Any questions, any comments? Did anybody write down what I said I was going to do? Because I'll probably forget what I said I was going to do. All right. Yeah, don't be shy. Don't hesitate to remind me as we go. All right. So we ready to get started? Okay. Who's my timekeeper tonight?
I'm happy to keep doing it.
All right, Bill, you can keep time. Eleanor, you're keeping really vague general notes.
Yes, I am.
It's something that eventually we're going to have to approve all these minutes.
I had sent an email. Is it? I mean, the ones I'm keeping are so big. It's really like, then we deliberated grants. Like, am I supposed to be doing anything more?
What would be good would probably be a little bit more detail, kind of grants numbered from the actual numbers, this number to this number. And the
Okay.
other thing I'd like to see in there, which would be good for the record, is if during the meeting, one of the council members has recused themselves from the discussion.
Okay. Okay.
Or,
Tonight.
or things like, oh, we delayed discussing this because blah, blah, Cody's here and, he needs to recuse himself, so we're going to pick it up the next meeting. That happened in one of the meetings. I can't remember exactly when. So,
Okay. I can do that for tonight.
excellent. Thank you. Anyone have anything else, or are we going to get into it? All right. Picking up where we left off. Let's see. Where we ended, and here's some good notes for you, Eleanor. We ended with number 96 in the sequence last week, which was the Town of Amherst Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for their Amherst Global Village Festival grant. We touched on that. We have a rough number for that one, so I'm going to save that one right now until we do the circle back to everything. Everybody good with that? Oh, that's what I was going to say too. Somebody needs to watch the participant group in case anybody joins. Who's going to do that for me? Because I'm going to be all over the place, so I can't really watch.
I could do that.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are starting tonight with grant number 97. This is the UMass Amherst Asian American Student Association. Their project is Asian Night, scheduled for April 26th. This spring at the Brommery Center for the Arts, UMass Amherst. They're requesting $2,000 out of their $35,267 budget. This is their largest event. They host 2,000 attendees each year. It's to promote cultural appreciation, celebrate Asian heritage, and spotlight APPI talent and to uplift attendees. So it's themed around various Asian American experiences. In 2022, it was Memories in Motion, which examined how culture intersects with the rich tapestry of each person's life and nostalgia of childhood. So this year's theme is inclusive and thought-provoking. And it'll encompass, the common ground that they all share. And prior and during the event, attendees are given free food and drink and merchandise through raffles and giveaways to support and promote local businesses. The programming of the night involves performances from groups from all over the greater Boston area and a guest appearance from a prominent APIDA performer or speaker. Okay, so before we kick it off, I'm just catching here that I don't think we had the theme for this year. We were just assured this could be a good one, right? Okay. Is there anyone with that would like to champion this event, speak to it, has any questions?
I'm happy to champion this one. I think I would definitely consider maybe mid or sorry, half partial funding. Knowing how offices work, I know that they tend to have a limited budget.
Hold on hey, Evelyn, hold on just a second. Your audio is really strange. It's not to accuse you of anything, but just something's weird and it's the words are not coming through clearly. So I don't know if you can just check. Whenever you're ready to try again, just go for it.
Does this sound better?
That sounds like your lovely voice. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry.
I was gonna say, I would definitely support this one, maybe half partial, considering how much money we have left. I would say low to half partial. I know that these events typically tend to attract a lot of people. It is something, especially with they're called RSOs on campus or like student clubs. But they tend to do a really, really good job. And it's an opportunity for folks who attend UMass, but also all of the 5 colleges in the area to kind of get that event program experience, kind of develop those skills. And I know that typically they do programming all year round. I'm assuming this is something that will happen, maybe in the April, May time. And so their budgets tend to run low, slash funding from other sources are limited. So I definitely would love to fund them. I'm wondering though, have we funded them in the past? What has that looked like? And I think that would definitely inform how much maybe we should potentially do this time.
I don't recall having funded them in the past. I just don't, I don't recall them applying in the past.
Neither do I.
Yeah. And is this, I need to read back through. This event is definitely for the general public, or is it for folks that are members? That's another question I had.
It seems to me like it's for the general public. I know, I don't know this particular group, but having been to a couple of our like student organization events, they tend to invite people from all across the region, slash all across the state. And they're like events that they're so well done that it's definitely something that is like nearing professional caliber. So I would say I feel pretty good about I guess this being able to provide high quality content for our community and it having a wider impact.
Hold on just a second. Okay. I was also looking at the budget to try to understand if there's a cost to attend. Did anyone happen to notice that? I mean, it's fine if there is. I just I think the MCC needs like more information around their budgeting and
I
stuff.
don't think I saw a cost to attend myself.
Yeah.
I would have made a note of that, I think, in my
I mean,
own.
in terms of their grand total, it's a fairly small ask. I mean, there are certain things that they're mentioning quite a bit that are like things that we don't really do, like is provide merch, we're not here to provide like merch and food and drink and all that kind of stuff, but that's all part of a larger budget. So I do wish I had a little bit more detail, but all in all, I think it's a great thing. Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, I feel like I'm talking about this one, but also other ones that are similar in nature, what could be like student groups or something happening that's being the grant applicant is like a student group on one of the campuses. I think we might do well to just have a similar approach to how we want to fund these. You know what I mean? Like so there's stuff happening at Amherst College that people are applying for, and I think because one of the general questions I had, which I put in my scoring sheet, was to what extent is ACC responsible for, or just like for funding these groups that are based on the campuses? Do you see what I mean? Like in the same way that to what extent should we be funding different schools and what they're doing, so I think that it might be good for us to have a principle in how we want to approach that, whether it's in dollar amounts, because the percentage might not be fair, because if they ask for a lot of widely disparate amounts, then we say 10% for everyone that the dollar amount might not make sense. So that's just my general comment. I think this is a good program, but I do have the question of like, is it really our, we can support it, but
Yeah.
what extent based on our budget, what's available?
They actually speak to this a little bit in here, which is we receive a set budget from our student government, allowing us to invite guest artists as well as cover technical expenses like lighting and sound. We use club revenue fundraised over the years to provide attendees with free t-shirts, stickers, magazines, all designed by our team to commemorate the event. Blah, blah, blah. And they also rely on sponsorships and giveaways for raffles in the line, during and then in the line prior to the event. So it seems like, I think it came up earlier for another grant where, a group that gets like a certain budget every year for, out of the student activities fees, like they're funded already, right? So, at what point would the cultural council step in when they actually have a budget to do some of these things? Now, of course, they're fundraising and making it a better event and bringing culture to everyone. So, but it is tough when you look at the budget details, like, I don't know, if they have a $20,000 budget, from the university, right? Then where's the, where does the amount that we're providing kind of fit in? Is it like gravy, like over the top, like they've had all of it covered? Yeah, and we just don't know enough. So,
Yeah, also just that, just that I think if we, as a council, want to have an understanding or, from year to year, a policy on how we want to approach this group of applicants, that might be good, like before we, decide the final amounts for everybody. I think that's just something maybe to bear in mind.
does anybody have an amount that they think's appropriate here? We could look at, I don't know, what would we want to compare this to?
Are we at time, Bill?
We are, yeah. I was also contemplating the number. I had a number in my head, but I don't have a good justification for it, so I'm not going to say it.
Just say it. Let's do it.
I had
Say
$500 in mind.
$500 sounds about right to me. Does anyone feel strongly about more or less?
I was gonna suggest 500 to 800.
Okay,
Um,
let's go put it in at 500 unless anybody feels strongly about a different number. If everybody's giving me thumbs up, I wasn't seeing it. We good?
Sounds good, yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you. All right, the next is Valley Light Opera for HMS Pinafore. And this will happen in fall of 2025 at the Academy of Music in Northampton. And they are requesting $1,000 out of their $53,000 budget. They are now in their 50th year of producing light opera. So this is Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore, and which they'll be celebrating 50 years of quality community theater. The production will use soloists, chorus, and orchestra primarily from the Pioneer Valley, but they also have artists from other Massachusetts locations who come in. They complete their rehearsals at the Wesley Methodist Church in Hadley, and their personnel includes a cast of 30, an ongoing production team of 10, an orchestra of 20, and at least 60 individuals from all over the valley contributing their time and talents, from ushering to costume construction to set building. Yes, so is there anyone who'd like to champion this or speak to it?
I really struggle to find the public benefit of being Northampton in that I don't hear a lot of, oh, I want to go see opera in Northampton. I mean, again, you know, I'm not out there that to hear social chatter, but I just feel the number that do attend very few from Amherst. I could be wrong.
Oh, no, Cody, I hate to say it, but I think in this case, yeah. um, Lots of folks from Amherst actually do go. Lots of folks who live in Amherst are creating this. This is the, you know, and one of the things that's going on here is there isn't necessarily a space that's affordable to do this kind of thing in Amherst. I know that this group is part of a larger group that is really working at a grassroots level to try to carve out the ability to have theater and musical maker space, like where do you build the sets, where do you build the costumes, as well as community space for performances, because there's a huge lack of performance space in Amherst. So, and then there's opera, and then there's opera, and this is, you know, I'm the music major dropout here, classical vocalist. Their productions, you know, have run for 50 years because they actually sell out, and they're light opera. They tend to be comedic and fun. They're a fantastic group, and they're fantastic also with taking care of all of the paperwork for their grants. And it might not be your cup of tea, but actually I think that you'd really have a good time if you went, because they're very kind of silly and fun and family oriented. But and it's pretty amazing to have an orchestra, a live orchestra for events like that. That's pretty rare, and for a community to be able to pull that together today is pretty impressive. So I don't know that we can fund the full amount, but I think the amount they're putting in, if I look back, is probably pretty typical for what they fund. It's a pretty enormous undertaking each year that they do this. And so just to look in the past, they were funded at 750 last year, and going out of order here, 500 the year before that, and 2023. It's not jumping out at me. I'm sure there must be one. I'm just not seeing it. So I definitely wouldn't recommend going down from that amount unless others feel that they're really, as Cody is saying, just isn't the public benefit.
No. All of what you said are valid points. I'm just forgot and be, you know, I haven't gone, so I wouldn't know.
No, I
So
think it's hard for us to make all the events that we grant. Although it'd be
yeah.
to try. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this? I'm sure we're at time, but
We're at time. The only other thing that I'll bring up, because we've discussed it with other grant applications, is the cost to attend for this, which is $10 to $35, which for Gilbert and Sullivan production at the Academy of Music, I know is not a bad thing, but it is there.
yeah. And did they have anything in there about adjusting admission?
I didn't see anything, but I will admit I have not read every single word in here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Under the cost of participation, it just says $10 to $35.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I mean, and I appreciate that. All right, I mean, this tells you a little bit about the public benefit. Their ticket sales, the budget for that is $38,000. So they're raising most of the money themselves and they're just asking for a small amount of help.
Yep.
Um, should
I
we
mean-
put them in for around 750 where they were before and see what we can do?
That sounds good.
Yeah, start with that and we might have to drop it because it depends on how much we want to give to other groups with similar types of projects, right?
Yep. I can't think of any quite similar to that level of, but when we go back through, we can look at that. All right, the next is Ella Wang. And this is for the Amherst High School Weather Station project. It would be occurring from spring of 2025 into the fall at Amherst Regional High School. This grantee is requesting $1,000 out of their $1,025 budget. And this is the Computer Science Club at Amherst High School. It's starting a project to build a weather station at the school and collect data to educate the local community on meteorology and climate change, and also to provide accurate local weather data and to introduce K through 12 students to many uses of STEM in their lives. And they plan to have a more hands-on learning experience for high school students, connect to the National Weather Service's Citizen Weather Program, and use the measurements to ensure weather conditions are safe for local sports teams and to help environmental organizations. They also plan to host tours with the younger students around the station. And they're hoping to place an order for the station sometime in the winter and set it up in the spring of 2025 and then do outreach in the fall. Is there anyone who'd like to champion this or speak to it or has any questions?
I mean, I'm happy to champion it. I just wanted, this is so different from anything else. I just want to make sure it is in our purview.
Yes, science, yeah. However, I think folks in the past would have questioned if there wasn't better funding for something like this.
Okay.
Yeah. My take was very cool project, but you know, I raised, well, it ain't, or it ain't what we typically fund. And I say there was a hospital application where I said, cool idea about other places that could be more apt to fund the project. So yeah.
I'm also struggling that there's no letter of recommendation and that it's a student who's applying for the funding, and I don't see any support from the school as far as a letter. They mention an environmental scholar and ecologist at UMass.
They do note that
That's-
the principal is approves it, but they don't have any proof of that.
Yeah, so there's someone at UMass who said, they're saying potentially they could be involved in the project, but I don't have a letter of support from them. The students reached out to Rob DeCanto. I know Rob, but Rob hasn't necessarily replied. And they want to collaborate with the Hitchcock Center, but I don't see anything other than, that's actually confirmed. So, I mean, it's it sounds great, but at the same time, it's like a big ask to not have the support of the school. You know, I don't know where did you see the part about the principal?
Let me find it. It did mention
Mm.
Talib Sadiq.
So okay, so it
How
says,
does the proposed project provide benefit? The last sentence, it says it has the approval of Talib Sadiq. So I will say that as much as I love this project and I think I see the public benefit to it, it can, this is gonna sound maybe too condescending, so please tell me, but this may be a learning moment for the students on how to write a grant and also how to think about if you want to ask for money, how you need more details in some cases and more proof that it is viable, and not just be aspirational in what you hope will happen or who you hope will
yeah, yeah.
come
Yeah.
on. I could go in more time. I could go either way. I do love it, but I also see that point of view as well.
Rachel, you've got your hand up.
I was just gonna say that this is just an instance of when in the past we've actually had a couple of information sessions or workshops to work with grantees or people who are applying to let them know what they needed to provide.
We did that this year.
Did we? Okay, so.
We do that every
thank-
year.
Thank you for doing that. So
Yeah.
yes, it is a learning moment for sure. And I think with something like this, because just the nature of the project, you know, the science, I know we've funded science projects or science, you know, related grants before, but I think for my part, I look at something like this as no different from any of the other student organizations on universities applying for money. So just in terms of like the nature of the application, I would view it the same. But in this case, I mean, I don't know if you're actually suggesting that we should outright deny this, Julianne, or not, or is it like we give them $100, say here, you know, towards seed money, I don't know, whatever, but
I mean, we don't usually do seed money. We usually try to fund something that's you know, we believe has the possibility of happening. You know, one of the things they say about, you know, if they aren't fully funded, that, you know, they could possibly get a less expensive weather station, or, you know, do a GoFundMe, or
right, if it weren't for those criteria that you all just mentioned, I would have said, oh, let's just adopt Bill's kind of, you know, what Bill raised earlier about $500. You know, that could just be something we support these types of projects with. But because of the criteria that you all just mentioned, it's like, do we have grounds for actually denying this outright?
I mean, I guess technically we do. My chief concern is I don't have anybody who's, you know, in this, you know, science faculty, for instance, who is pushing this through. So I'm you know, concerned that people, you know, if a student goes and talks to someone, it'd be like, wow, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'd support that. Yeah, you know, but the ability to actually have a physical location, you know, to do this and all of these things the students talking about, they sound great, but you know, making those things happen during the school day to bring in these other groups only happens if you know, the school's, you know, faculty and administration, it's kind of hard to drive that from a student level. So while I love it, I'm not sure that we should do it. I feel really guilty about that, though.
I'm wondering, seeing that they're students and maybe they have room to grow, if it would be like if there is a potential for us to fund partially and give them the feedback of like, this is what we would like to see in the future. I'm assuming they hopefully have an adult advisor that will look at this. But I did a quick Google search for a DIY weather station. I think 250 should cover most of like the actual startup funds. They need anything beyond that, maybe they could fundraise, like you guys said. But I think potentially that could be like a learning opportunity of like, hey, like we'd like to see more in this proposal. Can you talk to us more about public benefit without penalizing them for trying? I know that maybe that's like a good compromise, since I know that we seem like we want to fund it, but just need more info.
It's a little bit more cut and dry as far as either it's receiving funding or it isn't, and you know, kind of getting into the nuance of that and kind of, well, I think technically we could modify what the criteria is. You know, having been through kind of administering the grants from approval through to taking in all the documentation, it's kind of hard once you're doing that to wrap your head around, you know, what their final grant report is going to look like. I mean, the way it is right now, it has to match. They actually have to do this project as they've stated it. And if they can't do the project as they've stated it, even if we don't give them all the funds, then they owe the money back. Yes, Cody.
That's fair.
My only concern about even, I'd say $100 is what you said. People are like, yeah, that's a good idea, but are they really on board? So, is it to be bought? Will it be just a waste of money we could put for a valuable project? Or
That's true. I mean, there's some other grants that we already have set at, you know, not to fund, just because really accomplished folks, you know, kind of sketched something out, but there wasn't anything specific, you know, there weren't any letters or, you know, and this does kind of feel like it falls into that category.
So if we were hypothetically, if we were to deny, can we deny and send a notes back? Like give them the
We
feedback?
haven't typically done that, and there are reasons
I'm
not
sure. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
not to do that. There, you have to put in a reason for not funding it, and which don't maybe remember all of them off the top of my head, but basically it does not meet criteria
Mhm.
or not enough public benefit are the two main ones that we use.
And I
So-
suppose if they wanted to know more, they could listen to this recording.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they can also appeal. So yeah, is there anyone who feels that we absolutely must fund this to some extent?
I don't.
No? Okay. All right, moving to the next. We have John Waterman for live music, Making History Live. It's not sure, but would happen sometime in 2025 and would happen at some point in Amherst, requesting $400 out of their $400 budget. This would be a series of program that uses original songs and arrangement to inspire enthusiasm about the desire to explore history. They are designed for libraries, senior centers, and other venues. There are 4 programs: a journey through the roots of American popular music, Cro-Magnon blues, history and legends through song, railroad in song, and popular music and veterans. I will jump into this one in that this one, I believe, since the applicants from Haverhill, Massachusetts, did I say that wrong? I'm not sure if I did. I think this is another one where basically that they're probably applying to almost every LCC. And, you know, if you happen to fund them, then they would come, but there's no date, no venue, no letter of support. So I think this one, from my perspective, would be a pass. So anyone else who feels differently?
No, I would.
I was single. I was about to say something.
All right. Well, all right. Let's keep going then. The
Julian,
next- Yes?
Julian, it's Haverhill.
What?
Haverhill. It's the-
Haverhill. I'll
Haverhill.
probably forget and butcher it again.
Okay. It's like Amherst, the H is silent. Haverhill.
Haverhill. I think I even made it like Haverhill. Like I just put in a whole bunch of syllables that weren't there. I felt like it needed a little flair. All right. All right, Haverhill. There you are. Okay. Next is Weather Vane Community Arts for their World Music Mini Festival, June 21st in Turner's Fall. They're requesting 600 of their $5,935 budget. This is a day-long, family-friendly mini festival of world music featuring performances and workshops of music and dance from a variety of world cultures. And they're featuring the Juan Carlos Marin Band. This is an acclaimed New York-based ensemble that specializes in traditional Mexican San Rocco music. Probably butchered that too. They're also going to have Myrtle Street Klezmer. That's an Amherst-based ensemble that performs the music of Ashkenazi Jews, Orchestra Banista, which is Balkan music, and many others. They're presented in a mix of local, regional, and touring artists. It'll be in downtown Turner's Fall at the I messed that word up too, Park. And their additional activities include participatory educational music and dance workshops at the nearby Brick House Community Resource Center. Food is going to be provided by a local favorite, and a professional live video of the events will be posted on their website. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this one or has any questions?
I would champion this house. It has a variety of things going on, and it's a regional event. Therefore, I say ha for a high on the funding. Yeah.
Pretty good to me. I do believe people will make the trip to go and do this. And we do have Amherst folks performing in it as well. So, and it is a reasonable ask for what they're doing. They do say that they anticipate serving about 400 people served. It said, they have also applied to Montague and Greenfield's cultural councils for funding. Any other folks with a number around this, presuming everyone thinks we should fund it? I do.
I agree with Cody.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely be down for full or partial, maybe 400 to 600 on this one, but I definitely could see us fully funding.
Yeah. Yeah, let's move it to 400 since they didn't bring it right here to Amherst, and maybe they'll think about that next time. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Thanks. All right, moving to the next, we have Wayman Brown, or Grover Wayman Brown, with Dream On. It's would happen one evening during the week of April 21st at Amherst General Store and Art Gallery, requesting $500 out of the $945 budget. And this is an in-person immersive artistic event centered on the question, what do you dream of? The event host will design a socially co-present space, inviting people to acknowledge their despair, but make space at the event for dreams. to do this on their own and but for those of the strangers around them. In Dream On, they'll feature readings by local authors from a wide range of genres. And it'll be followed by a DJ playing dreamy jams. And through facilitated engagements about shared dreams, participants are encouraged to ask each other, what do you dream of before? Where did you live? Or what do you work for? Sorry, what do you do for work? And then there'll be a dream theme. They'll have dream theme vendors such as career coaches, tarot readers, and community organizers, in addition to local artists. And there will be local drinks and snacks for sale. Is there anyone who would like to champion this or would like to speak to this? Has any questions?
I would be interested in a full, depending on how we're doing. Again, I know we're right at the end of the wire, but I did want to point out we have an event that's very similar to this that we were kind of on the fence about. So wanted to bring that up. I think it was the Amherst Books event earlier.
This was
And
striking
so-
me the same way. This is where, you know, it's
Yeah.
a retail location that's having an event, but at the same time, there's going to be a boost in sales. And then it looks like it's also a bit of, you know, an opportunity for career coaches to get new paid clients as well. So it just strikes me as it being a little different than what we typically fund, that usually, you know, isn't in a retail environment with kind of shopping experiences in parallel.
I think what I'm most curious about is what this funding will be used for. I'm wondering if this is a space or an event that could run without this funding. Like, are we paying for a venue? Are we not paying for a venue? Are we like paying the vendors to be there, but then also sell things?
Yep. Yeah.
I
So
think
the
public
budget, the
benefit is
budget-
dubious.
Hmm?
I think public benefit is dubious. Like, I'm not sure like how many people would actually come to this event. I know that we're in town, there's not that many events that happen in terms of like, actually, I don't know that that's true. But I was gonna say this kind of event would be something that local bars or nightlife would present. I don't know. I'm a little bit fuzzy on perceived community benefit on this one.
I think I am as well.
But I think this is like one of two events that I've seen that are like kind of like this, where it's like an event where there's like readers and things like that. So yeah, something to think about.
All right, I'm gonna have to start calling on people.
I mean, I share the same concerns. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting idea, and it is, you know, obviously targeting an underserved population. But we should also look at it for equity purposes, the same way we do the Amherst Books event. And then, you know, living near the general store, I also question how much attendance they would get for this type of event. And the general store runs lots of events, but most of them are family friendly and targeted at families, and also have now been well established for a few years, and so people know of it. But it feels like we may not get folks up this way for something like this. I don't know.
Yeah, and there were some questions on the score sheet where, you know, folks were saying, all right, it's only 75 people served, and to what you're saying, Bill, that might be ambitious, and someone else saying that they don't even understand what this is. Like, there's a, you know, what is this? Because I don't know, does it strike anyone else as being kind of, I don't know what the experience that people are going to have is about just getting a bunch of people together and then having them talk about what they dream about.
Yeah, I don't think they defined it well enough, and they probably haven't defined it in their heads enough either. feels scattershot. So, and I'll just note we're at time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the LCC's guidelines, you know, they kind of, somewhere I think they say to try to fund things at no less than $250. And granted, sometimes we do, but I think that's a good litmus test that, you know, if we don't feel strongly enough to, you know, do we feel strongly enough that we would fund 250 to this? And if we don't, then maybe that's because, you know, it's not clear enough and, you know, the perceived public benefit for those numbers in that location, and given that it's a retail thing. So is there anyone who feels strongly about funding this for 250 or more dollars?
Not me.
So we're deciding between not funding it at all or 250.
I'm just saying, you know, if we
That
would,
might be a good metric to think about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because remember, you know, we're gonna have to go and like deal with these numbers, and really we're gonna have to take that away from something that is an event that's understood if we put any funds here.
I do not feel strongly about it.
So we're talking about not funding it at all, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
Okay, all agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Okay. Next is Naomi Westwater Weeks, Reclaiming Folk. It's to be at the Jones Library sometime in 2025. They're requesting $1,200 out of their $1,200 budget. This is an event series that celebrates the contribution of people of color to American folk music. It's created by singer-songwriter Naomi Westwater and will feature performances by BIPOC artists honoring both past and present folk music, original music and cover songs of this historic significance are included, and there's a Q&A for the audience. Since it was founded in 2024, they've hosted 15 artists across 10 locations in Massachusetts, including public performances at public libraries, places of worship, cultural centers, and events at the Boston Public Library in collaboration with the mayor's office. Before we get into this one, this applicant is from Brockton. And I, again, get the impression that, you know, they've applied to many cultural councils, and it's one of these, not that they have a letter of support to join us, but just that, you know, if we fund it, then they'd make their way out here. So is there anyone who feels particularly strongly about funding a program that wasn't, you know, requested or potentially scheduled with the Jones Library?
Not me.
We
No.
all agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Guys are doing great. Thanks for hanging in here. All right, now we've got Wildwood Cemetery, which is a nonprofit, and they are requesting funding for the Wildwood Cemetery Sculpture Park. It would be from spring through October 2025, and then would occur annually thereafter. They're requesting $3,000 out of their $4,785 budget. And they're saying that the landscape of Wildwood Cemetery is inspired by Frederick Law Olmsted's designs. It's the resting place of many town residents, and it's a nature preserved that's enjoyed by bird watchers and hikers. Rebecca Frick, the director of the Wildwood Cemetery, approached me, see who me is here, to enhance its landscape with sculpture that celebrates life in the profound presence of the reality of death. They plan to install 2 sculptures in the spring of 2025 on the nature paths. They're fortunate to have Nancy LaPointe, a retired UMass ceramic professor, and Ann Gillen, who has over 20 sculptures around New York City. Nancy's ceramic bench will overlook the Holyoke Range, and Anne's sculpture will be installed in the woods, and the general public would be engaged through special events, artist talks, talks and streaming, and drawing attention to the sculpture park in this historic cemetery. Is there anyone who would like to champion this, would like to speak to it, has any questions?
I would like to champion this as it's different. I feel it's and just a good initiative and a cool one. So yeah.
I like
think,
this. Sorry, go ahead, Julie.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like this one too. I like that it's, we have support from the director of the cemetery. But I don't know, I like it, and I liked that other one where they do the historic walking tour of the cemetery. I think it's a high amount that I don't know if we can fund, but I really love engaging that specific space with art. And yeah, there's just a lot of interesting history there. So if we can fund this at all, I would love to.
And the caliber of the art's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, the actual artwork is being donated in kind. However, it is an enormous ask considering. It's the kind of, amount that we would give to also to a huge community event with, multiple artists and performances, and yet, the benefit of this is it is something that, is a benefit in the future, but I can't quite wrap my head around how much, considering the quality of it, how much funding we can really do for this.
Yeah, to me, it feels like commission public art almost. It's, I mean, I think
And-
the amount is
Mhm.
prohibitive given our budget.
Yeah, and I guess the only, if I was a public art commission and I was able to have these pieces of art, which I'm neither, right? And I was able to, as the public art commission, decide where the community would, view these the most and benefit, from, or works from these artists, maybe not these particular works, I might not put them there. And yet, certainly, where they would be situated is part of the poetic, expression of sculpture. So, who am I to say? But I just, again, I don't know how to wrap my head around, the amount that they're asking for when it's, if we were giving out grants that size, I guess what, we'd only be able to give 20, and we have over 100 requests, so. Does anyone have, do we want to do a partial, or are we questioning, Rachel, were you questioning doing this at all? I don't think you were you?
No, I wasn't questioning, like, I wasn't
Okay.
saying don't fund it at all, but I think it just, the nature of it and the, in some ways, predetermined public benefit because of its location and its scope, in our budget. So, no, I don't think we're in a position to fund much of what's being asked. But I'm not saying don't fund it at all.
Yeah, good, yeah. I think we'd all like to fund it, it's just a matter of, I just don't think we could give them a meaningful amount of what they're asking for.
Was 500.
I'm concerned with, and I know we try not to do this, but knowing that we're going to have to cut, that we just don't have the 500. You know, if I put this in right now at 500 with our running total, remember there's some that we have to circle back to that we feel strongly about that we haven't even put numbers in yet. That puts us over 77,000. I just put it at 500.
Or you suggest is like 100 to 250.
Well, back to the MCC's thing, giving less than 250, which we do in some cases, but,
So I said 250 for now.
does everyone feel that we should try to do this at 250? Or is that too much or too little?
So one, I'll note that we're at time, or overtime. I'm gonna be the one to sit on this. I mean, I love sculpture and public art. I do question the location. I know I know where the cemetery is. I question, and simply because so this is an honest question. I don't know how many people actually go through that area and would actually be able to see it, which brings the public benefit question to mind for me. And I'm happy to hear like that people do that and go through there and would see it. I just don't know.
I have not been, so I'd be happy to hear from anyone else, but that location, as far as Wildwood, is kind of close in walking distance. It's, walkable to get there from UMass. It's walkable from several neighborhoods. I think if it, I don't know if people go there, you know.
I do know that's a common way to get from Village Park to Wildwood. I mean, that's mostly kids. How many kids care about sculptures? So,
That's like that's like hiding broccoli in the brownies, right? If the kids are walking by there, let's put a bunch of sculpture up there. They won't even know that we're doing it to them.
Yeah. But actually, I'm glad to hear that, Cody, that it is a traversed area. If there are kids going through, that also means there's in some cases there are parents going through. So that eases my concern a bit.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is with these artists donating work in kind, I kind of feel like, the caliber of the artist, we owe it to them to let the art have a home in Amherst somewhere, Um, I'm not seeing a whole lot about, hey, enjoy the grounds of the cemetery, walking areas or whatnot, but I do think that, that if it's a path and people are using it that way. I've got tour ideas at Wildwood. Do you have an idea for a tour at Wildwood? But I haven't seen this at other cemetery websites. I feel pretty strongly about trying to fund it for 250.
I'm good
So,
with that.
yeah, I really wouldn't want to have the artist here and going, nah, we don't even want your art at all. I think we do want it, right? All right. Moving to the next, I've got Narissa Williams Scott with mass queuing for the soul. It would happen in May of 2025 at the Mill District Local Art Gallery. They're asking for $5,000 out of their $5,000 budget. This is a workshop that allows participants to explore the ritual and technique behind the signature art practice of mass queuing, led by a multidisciplinary artist, Daniel Callahan. Through guided self-reflection, participants conceptualize their own mass cues and then use their own faces as canvases to become living works of art. Rarely in life are we provided the time and space to check in with ourselves while simultaneously engaging our imagination and creativity. This workshop allows this kind of encounter in a communal safe space, given both its intrapersonal and interpersonal exploration. This workshop is quite effective as a team building orientation activity. I'm going to just start off by noting that the number served is 60, given the $5,000 budget. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this, champion it? Any questions? I'd also note that there is a cost to participate. They're charging admission for it.
I'm concerned, I think, about the high price of this event. I'm wondering what the cost breakdown is, especially noting that there is a cost to attend the event. I'm assuming that we would just be hosting this this artist. I'm all for artists getting paid, obviously. I love that. And getting compensated for their work. I'm just a little bit concerned about $5,000 for one event.
I'm rather concerned as well. So the payment
Yeah.
for the budget is 1,500 for Daniel to do the event. There's some transportation included that we can't cover for 150. There's an ASL interpreter for 450. There's $500 to rent the gallery. There's 1,400 payment for TCGT. I would need to look up what that is. And then another for $1,000 worth of supplies. So it's a rather large ask. Again, this is they're asking for about 10% of the total amount that we have to provide. And
I
yeah.
think maximum that I would be willing to say yes, we should fund this is like 1K maximum. But I'm just not even sure if do we have like a letter of support? What do we know about I guess this space?
Really not much. Again, this is an applicant from Boston, which is, it's fine. You know, the event is here in Amherst. But I don't believe we have any kind of letter of support here.
I didn't see one. I mean, I kind of question whether it rises to the level of other things that we've funded just in terms of the public benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
mind
and
being-
$1,000 is a large amount to fund. Yeah, I mean, I think without some sort of letter of support that this is even being requested, or that that there's definitely there, you know, there isn't a date, and there, you know, so I
I think I'm leaning towards a pass for sure. Just because I'm leaning towards a pass. I think again, if there is a similar event with more information, I would still like, I think the maximum ask logistically 1K makes sense. And I don't know that even if that were the proposal that I would be leaning towards fully funding it either.
well, fully funding it, yeah, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
That's one of those, I wish people would look at the amount that they're requesting and, you know, look at what folks have been granted and put their event in perspective. Okay, so unless anyone feels strongly about funding this, then we will pass on it. Anyone?
Yes. Sounds good.
Yep. Right, thank you. We have next Dennis Wise, The Theft of Dignity. It's the Amherst presentation. And they're looking at doing it sometime between September or December of 2024 and September 2025. And they would do this at the library or another public town venue. They're requesting $680 out of their $680 budget. This is basically a speaker coming in to speak about peer bullying. So I'm going to just get right into this one, that this again seems to be it hasn't been requested, and the grantee is applying from Canton, Mass. It's, I think, almost 2 hours away. And at this stage, it's not being requested. There's no letter of support, and there's no venue. So is there anyone who feels strongly that we should consider funding this?
I don't.
Nope.
Nope. All right, thank you. And, all right, now we have Alexandra Woolner Poetry Vending Machine. This would occur in 2025 at Amherst Books. They're requesting $1,000 out of their $1,000 budget. They're saying that Attack Bear Press has maintained the poetry vending machine at Amherst Books in 2019. They sell poems out of the machine at 50 cents per piece. And local poets, writers, and strangers are encouraged to purchase a poem. The submissions are collected and also they can submit poems using the QR code, and that the submissions are collected and reviewed by Attack Bear Press team to ensure that they are appropriate for all audiences. They also encourage people to submit poetry by mail or online at their website. So this is an applicant that we funded to produce this project just right from the start. And I think we had another grant earlier here where we had someone, basically doing exactly the same thing. This isn't like a repeat because it's not, a group of people showing up again in the space. They're requesting funds for something that we funded. And further, it was a real struggle working with them, and I don't believe they ever got back to us with receipts documentation that we needed for their direct grant award on this in the past.
Did we give them anything? What did we give them last year for this? Do you remember?
So 2023, they received $330. And we reached out several times. I think maybe we finally got all of the documentation after chasing it for almost 6 months.
You mean the report?
Mhm.
That kind of, okay, that kind of documentation. So they have turned something in because otherwise they'd be disqualified from getting a grant
Um,
in the first place, right? If we don't have the report from the previous grant.
yeah, I'd have to look at the documentation, but it took some time. And the other thing is I'm not sure that, don't think they actually credited the Amherst Cultural Council on the actual vending machine. I'd looked at it. It's been some time back that I was in there and looked at it, and I think there were other groups credited. But I mean, I guess, on the one hand, this is going to happen whether we fund it or not, and it's going to happen because we did fund it. It's a cute concept. It's just, I just feel like it's already happened. And that's a huge ask. Any thoughts here?
I will support that fund. It's just because it's not you we create a headache for
This-
everyone.
Here's a picture of it. And it does not credit Amherst Cultural Council. Just, it does credit Mass Cultural Council, so they're halfway there with that. But is there anyone else who strongly about funding it or not funding it?
I would like to fund it. I mean, I'll bend to the will of the council, if people think that we shouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, I know it already happened, but I think I support it. I think it's kind of such an on the nose example of like people kind of coming together through art and creating and giving art in such an easy, simple way. And I like that it's kind of a literary, cultural thing. So I would be okay with giving them a really low amount even, but just to be like, hey, Amherst Books, poetry vending machine, we support you. But I'm okay with not doing it. But that's my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, the way they have the budget written of, half the budget we're not able to fund because it's for transportation.
So that makes it easier, I guess.
I think I'll back up Eleanor. I think if we did like a maybe quarter funding with all of the things that you guys mentioned in mind. Also looking at the picture of it, that's actually really cute. And I think if this is something that's been happening since 2019, hopefully it adds to I guess like the ethos or culture of the town. And it looks like I've definitely heard of this poetry vending machine before. So I mean, yeah, I think that's my toss in the bid. But yeah.
What if we were to fund it closer to like half of what we did previously, since it is not new? Just again, to support the ongoing kind of costs of keeping it. So we funded it around 300 previously.
Yeah, same would be all right.
Yep, I'm good with
300
it.
again?
Yep.
No, I'm good with the half.
Is everybody good with 150?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we are now going to be able to circle back to some that we discussed previously. So let's, I want to touch on Friends of the Mount Holyoke Range, which I don't think we actually really need to discuss again. There was some question as to whether we did get the paperwork. We did. It was quite a process. I had to make a lot of phone calls and chase people down in comments on Facebook who had disappeared and ghosted us. So it is the same applicant. But in the end, the paperwork did finally come back through to us. So it is a valued community event. So we had that penciled in for 450, and I think we should leave that where it is. Is everyone good with that? Okay.
Yeah, knowing they had their paperwork turned in helps
Yep.
with that.
Yeah. I mean, we're not supposed to have to chase people for it. We're really not. Okay. And then let's start kind of towards the middle with where we would circle back, and let's go back to the Amherst Global Village Festival that's scheduled for April 5th here in Amherst. They were requesting $2,000 out of their $16,000 budget. This is actually being run as an event dedicated to celebrating cultural diversity and promoting inclusivity within our community. It is actually being organized. Let me pull the actual grant here. So it's being run by the Department of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion by their, I think he's the director of that, Philip Avila. He did come to the information session that we had at Town Hall, and yeah, so it is free and open to the public. So we have $2,000 penciled in to that, trying to fund this in full. And yet we didn't have time to discuss in much detail. They did not apply to any other councils, but I think that'd be awkward being the town of Amherst creating an event for Amherst applying to other councils. So, and they're, raising an additional, 14,000 for the budget without us. So, is there anyone with further comments on this, or what would folks, there were some questions and folks wanted to discuss this more last week.
I mean, I would just say this is the kind of thing that I think is fantastic. It reminds me of the Folklife Festival for the Smithsonian, where you have all of these different elements of culture, food and art and language and all of that. It brings it all together, and I don't know, it just feels like a kind of a tailor-made event for what we do.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is absolutely right here, and I think it's really special that at the town government level that we're so committed to this, that, we actually have, the staff of the town hosting an event for the community to do this. I don't know where else the rest of you have lived, but I can't think of anywhere else I've lived that their town would do that. I've kind of moved all over for a while too. I can tell you places that they definitely wouldn't do it, that's for sure. And I also think that it's great that we're at a scale where something like this could be done in the neighborhood of $16,000, that is a realistic budget, and that they only need 2,000 for us to make this happen. It's pretty cool. Like, the amount of money you'd have to have to do this, or you guys are from in Maryland, in any town would be, 6 figures easily.
I can get behind fully funding it for those reasons.
Okay. Great. Are we all agreed to leave that at 2,000? I'm okay. And just in general, we are again at 77,000 and change here at the moment, and there are a couple more that we still need to circle back to. So, and circle back we will. Okay. All good to move on? Okay, we are now circling back to the Craig's Door and ETTA groups, where they're both applying for funds to collaborate, but on the same event. And they both have applied for funds previously. They both do great work. But the total ask between the two groups is about $7,500. And it's not typically how we would work and how we would grant this. But I think, first and foremost, we kind of have to look at this as, more like as a single kind of event type thing rather than two entirely separate things. Has anyone given this any more thought since we first discussed it?
Which number on the spreadsheet is that, Julian?
Fair question.
I think 28 and 30, I want to say, somewhere right around that.
It's 26 and 28.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's the number on the like Excel numbers, but yeah, those are the grant numbers.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same long format extended event.
To clarify, sorry, I thought I heard 77K is where we're at right now in the estimate.
That's correct. We're at 77,000 and change, and this combined event is for almost 10% of that, 7,500 roughly, just using round numbers.
And I just wanted to clarify, since I was not here last week, what was the ballpark that we were thinking about last week? I think right now I'm erring towards funding line 28, maybe half. I think it's a great event, and also we're quite a bit over budget.
Yeah.
But whatever you guys were thinking.
Yeah, I also want to go back and kind of look at what we've funded in the past for the groups. So ETTA, we funded in the neighborhood of they were at 235 in 2023. We bumped them, and I think they were at around 300 in 2022, and in 2024 they received quite a bit of funding. It was at 1,500, and they did Habitat. I think it was that one. That was with the Eric Carle Museum. I think that's what that one was for. Craig's Doors has applied in years past for various things. I don't necessarily see funding for them right now. I know we funded some things, but it may have been a while since they applied. And I think it's an important community that they're serving here. It's a huge, huge, huge ask.
So I've been working on the assumption that we can only, in terms of funding, consider one of them because of the rules. Is that correct? Because they're the same applicant. Is that the one that I'm thinking of, where it's the same person?
Let me take a very specific look at this.
No, maybe
No.
not. No, they're a different app. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else.
No, it's worth checking. Okay, so okay, so it's Azelle who's applying for one. The other, yeah, it's two different applicants and two different groups, truly. And
Yeah.
we do want to encourage groups to collaborate together. And I think, to some extent, the way that they did the budgeting is perhaps just confusion about, how we want things done, and they were just kind of guessing. I had received an email from them about this, and I got back, I think it was like a day or 2 days before it was closing out, and I basically said, hey, here's my cell phone, give me a call. And they didn't read the message until after the deadline had passed and they'd already applied. But it was, complicated enough that it was like, no, we could talk about it, and I was ready and willing to speak with them, but I think they just missed the email back. We definitely want to fund this group. They do amazing work.
I mean, how would people feel about 500 for each?
I'm definitely not opposed to that. Yeah.
I'm certainly not opposed to that. I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around, who's doing what specifically.
Yeah.
So just to kind of top level on the budget, there's from Craig's Doors, they've got a little over 2,000 that is going to salaries and fees for humanists, scientists, generally at a rate of about $22 an hour for the folks participating. So that's certainly reasonable as far as the rate, but we don't necessarily have, $2,252. The rest of the, kind of like another 2,000 of their budget is around supplies for artist smocks and art supplies and things like that. Does that seem high? $2,000 worth of art supplies? I mean, I don't know, art supplies. What were you gonna say, Cody? I'm rambling now.
I can get behind 500 for each.
Yeah. I guess if everybody's good with that, then we can use that. Is there anyone who feels strongly about something different? Again, I'm not looking, so if you're waving at me,
I think everybody's good.
thank you, Ellen. Okay. Where else? Okay, thank you guys for all hanging in here. I believe we have two more to circle back to. We have the Bodily Press, sometime in Amherst at Amherst Books. This is the one where they were requesting $2,000 out of their $2,000 budget. So this is basically for an event to host a reading that would also include a local painter and the founder of the Bodily Press to celebrate the release of a new chapbook by each of the poets and artists. So they'd have a reading at Amherst Books, which would be open to local community, and then the funds are used for printing, designing, and paying the authors. And then the book sales will benefit the authors and Bodily Press and Amherst Books. So when we last discussed this, there were folks that were kind of questioning, like usually there aren't, stipends, say if you're presenting your work at a reading for books that you're selling, you don't usually, that's usually something that is just part of, selling books. On the other hand, I guess it's different for an acclaimed author on the New York Times bestseller list compared to poetry. I don't think anybody is running all the way to the bank here. So, who would like to speak to this?
I think originally I was looking at like maybe a high partial. I think in light of all of the other things that we are funding, I think I would be okay with maybe like a $700 range. Especially again, considering like I love the idea of hosting a reading. I feel like like I mentioned earlier, we don't really have that or I guess this is a different kind of event from what other people are applying to have. So I like that it's a different kind of event. It's serving a different population, and also I'm just not sure that we can or that we should take on the cost of like funding this fully. So I think I'm gearing towards low to half at around like the 700, maybe 750 range. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we should try to do some funding for it and show some support. And yet 750 still seems like quite a large amount, because we know that we're going to have to take it from somewhere else. And it's, you can't always just look at the number of people served. It's, 50 people, but it's, certainly with a quality of literature that we're lucky to have here.
I think maybe even 500 seems like we would like you to do this. perhaps, and it seems like there's like an adequate amount of planning for this. It seems like it will have community benefit. Perhaps maybe next year, in expanding this or enhancing it, maybe diversify your funding sources. But yeah, I think final answer 500 to 750 for me.
Does anyone else have thoughts about the amount and what's appropriate?
I can settle for 500.
I'm also good with the 500.
Okay, let's put it at the 100. Okay. Now we have the last one to circle back to is Project Sarang Colors of South Asian Music. It was for spring of 2025, maybe either March or April at Amherst College. They're requesting $1,000 out of their $1,000 budget. We said that we needed to circle back because it looked great, but there were no confirmed performers and I think no letter of support for it. I'm just kind of going back to look at that again. I think the main concern was that there just wasn't any confirmation, at Amherst College of this happening, and that they were real loose about who the performers would be. So we really, it just didn't seem like it was really planned.
I think now circling back to it, unfortunately, this is a pass for me. I think if there was maybe more details, a letter of support from the venue slash, yeah. I think if there is more of that kind of information, I could potentially do like a partial fund. And also again, noting that we're in the red, so to speak. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Anyone who feels strongly about trying to fund it at all. I think, if it was presented the right way, I think we very much want to, but
Yeah, I think it's just confusing about just Amherst College there. I think there's just not enough information. And I think that we're unfortunately not funding other groups for the not enough information in the same way.
mhm.
I wish that there was.
Yeah, okay. There was one more that I was trying to go back to that I remembered as picking on people from Maryland. Where actually the applicant was from Maryland. And I just want to see if we actually funded it. Oh, we did fund it, and I think we really wanted to fund it. So this is the one that was at the Red Barn at Hampshire College. Let me find it. So the LCC actually does not allow us to provide funding to lead applicants who are not in Massachusetts. Give me just a second. I'll give you guys the number for which one it is. This is such a cool event too. It's the Rendezvous. It's number 93 in the sequence, and it's Tiani Thorne, and they've got a date, they've got a location. And it's at the Red Barn, and it looks like an amazing event. And it was a really reasonable ask from them of asking for 500 out of the $4,665 budget. Yeah. That's unfortunate. MCCLCC. Just want to see if I can kind of point everyone at the rules for this. Application process, LCC program guidelines. So I think I can't share a link here, can I? If you go to, does everyone know how to,
Can you quickly screen share or no?
probably, okay. Let's see. One panelist, okay, is it gonna let me share? It does, all right. Okay, so if you go to just MCC to LCCs, you go to application process, and then you go to guidelines. All of the guidelines that we're required to abide by are here. And in case anybody wants a little bit of light reading, and membership. Oh gosh, there's so much here. Duties.
It's on page 9.
Thank you.
Yep.
Eligibility.
And then program, is that where I saw it?
Program eligibility, applicant eligibility. Applicants must reside or be located in Massachusetts. We can, yeah, accept applications from anyone. And we're authorized to prioritize eligible applicant types or limit which type of applicants they fund. If they do so, they must publish. That's what we didn't do this year, folks. We didn't publish that. So I think at this point, because the lead applicant is not in the in Massachusetts, I don't see a way around that. Does anybody read this differently?
No, that's how I read it too.
And it's not a typo on their address because the zip code matches for Maryland also. They could appeal, you know, and I would encourage anyone to appeal, you know, what if I'm wrong, right? So I will unfortunately move that one to 0 as well. I do think it will happen with or without us, but I would really like to support that, and it is in Amherst. Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left, and seems that we are still solidly at 77,000.
So we need to come down 17,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it doesn't really give us a whole lot of time to kind of review categories, and we would want to put these in. I guess we could spend a few minutes reviewing the list of who isn't receiving grants at this point. If you'll give me just a moment to collect myself here.
Before I forget, probably me this Wednesday. With that being said, first, I'm helping in need until 6:30 on Wednesday, but after that, I can be on. Just say
Okay, thank you. So you're saying we don't have a quorum to start at 6:30, then we shouldn't start till 6:30. I think we would have a quorum at any rate. I was really hoping we could manage to wrap this up without having to go till Wednesday, but I think unfortunately we do. There's still one more that I missed that we have as revisit, by the way. So that is for, and let's take care of that one. Ghost Ensemble, Deep Listening in the Community, Saturday, April 12th at in Amherst, the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst. This is a collaboration between Ghost Ensemble and Disabled Artist Community Rainbow Players. So that's the same as ETTA. It's a day-long workshop. And it's going to bring transformative practices of deep listening by composer Pauline Oliveros to a systematically underrepresented, underserved community. It's led by Director Ben Richter and the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst to create an inclusive environment where participants with disabilities can participate in experimental music, be accessible instruments. And after the project, the community members from the Rainbow Players will continue to work regularly with Ghost Ensemble, allowing for continued exploration. So I think this one we were looking at, when we were looking at this last, we were looking at ETTA's involvement, and yet it's, again, we encourage collaboration, and Ghost Ensemble is the lead applicant here. Is there anyone who has any further thoughts about this one?
Where do we stand with that last time?
Say that again?
I said, were we trying to decide how much to fund it, whether to fund it, or?
I think, we were looking at Rainbow, ETTA receiving funding from, for the collaboration with Craig's Doors, and then with this collaboration, I guess, case in point, let's look at, what the total budget is on this one. So the total budget for it, there's $2,000 in salaries and fees at $1,000 each for the workshop facilitators. Rainbow Players staff would be receiving $500 also as a salary fee, and then there's another $350 in supplies and materials. In addition to what they're requesting, they have $850 that's come in from personal donations to them for this. So mostly they're trying to pay the artists. So I think we all support funding it.
Yep.
At the same time, it's certainly an underrepresented population, but the total number of folks served is 35 here. I think we're going to have to do a partial award. I see no way around that. Does anyone have a number that they want to throw out that they think is kind of meaningful?
I mean, I think in an ideal world, this would be a full partial. I'm gonna throw out 500 just as like a asterisk. And I think potentially if we're able to maybe clean up some of our other funds, potentially more, but yeah, I think
I was
definitely.
about to say 500 as well.
Yeah, I support that. I definitely think the public benefit is there.
Yeah.
So what are we doing about the other one that, the Craig's Door one? What is that? That was.
That went at
What was that word?
500, and the Craig's Door
Okay.
themselves have nothing to do
Right.
with
But
this.
it's ETTA that's kind of involved in both, right?
Yeah, so ETTA for their own application was at 500. So this, ETTA is included in their budget, whether they're gonna have money to pay them or not, I don't know. Those are at a certain point, things that we can't necessarily, solve for everything. Right?
And that seems fair, yeah.
And I think, we do want this event to happen, right? So, all right. So are we all good to try to do this at 500 then?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, with 2 minutes left, what more can we get done?
Well, let me
Um,
ask you a question, Juliana. I know you wanted to make sure that we were clear on who we weren't funding. I mean, I'm fairly confident in our decisions in that I don't feel a need to go back and revisit. I don't know how other people feel.
I think the
Yeah.
decisions were made. I think is it just a matter of making sure we have the correct list? Like everyone we decide not to fund is, or.
Yeah, I think I could actually put that up here on screen if you guys will give me a real quick moment.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident we are on same page of who not to fund.
Hang tight, folks. Just cleaning up this chart. Sorry, okay. Almost there. Yep. All right. Okay, let's run through the list. Thank you for suggesting that, Bill. Is this one? Way too many tabs, folks, as usual. All right, are you all seeing a yellow column here that's all zeros?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, Motown hits at and history. This was one that I guess the Jones hadn't requested, the one that we just discussed at Amherst College that they hadn't requested, another one for the Jones Library, a donation of books that they hadn't requested. There were major problems with the budget on this one, for this play at the Drake, along with, I think there wasn't a letter. Hilltown Family suggests this is not so much an event, but supporting a website that lets people know about events. This one, as far as it's a music event, the South Hadley Senior Center. So this was that it wasn't local and that we're doing things for our own seniors here in town. I think with this one, it wasn't firm enough as far as where, when. While following along here. Same with this. Wasn't requested, and we didn't know where, when. This was at a private school and had already occurred. This was more in the area of the Public Arts Commission, and again, it hadn't been requested. And This was a music event for the whole community at Applewood. The general sense there was that we didn't really think the community was going to that location for the, scale of event they were doing. Please stop me, anyone, if you have any comments, just hop in here. This was more like I think a motivational program, again, that wasn't requested. We didn't necessarily think high school students were going to self-elect to go to the library to attend. This was one that we have funded in the past, but I think it really came down to that it wasn't truly here in Amherst. Likewise with the next one for the Charlemont Music Festival. And again, both of these are things that we've, funded in the past, but we're really having to, as much as we're going over and as many local applicants as we have, we just can't continue to support events that aren't here. This applicant was funded for their hip hop chair dance, which is something the community relies on and looks forward to, whereas we were looking for more detail and kind of planning around this musical that they were planning to create. It seemed, certainly worth doing, but just, it was more of a concept right now. The Narluga Arts, we funded a different grant with them that's occurring at the Drake for, it was klezmer, was it specifically klezmer? You guys all here? Are you?
Yep.
Yep,
Just checking.
no disagreements.
Alright. We have quite a few brass performances that are scheduled, and this one was at a church, and it seemed that the other brass events would be better attended by the larger community. The hospital in Holyoke is outside of what we do. This outdoor sculpture, you were here. This was again one that this group is applying to, or this grantee is applying to pretty much all the LCCs, and it was not requested by the town. Amherst Onyi was it's a dance competition, and given the how large the budget is, a small partial to support this. We just couldn't touch what they needed, and we really felt that it required quite a bit more organization in general, but just at more than half our budget or our allocation to grant, it was just more than we could do. This one, I think
I think that one was funding like purchase of DJ equipment. Is that right?
that's right. Thank you. Yep. This was really unfortunate. This is a grantee who applies each year, and yet it's outside of the timing of when we can fund something. It would have to be in 2025. It could have been from July of 2024 through December of 2024. And we did double check back through the grant application to see if there was anything about 2025, and there wasn't. So we cannot fund this. Roger Tinknell is being funded for the other grant that he applied for. We discussed the weather station tonight, and we discussed all of these last few tonight. So does anyone have any questions? Anything?
Just quickly, there was one, I think I missed the meeting, and I just want to make sure that we might have already covered it. There was one grant request where Was it the? Is it the book fest? One of the ones where the applicant was applying for us to give them money so they can quote unquote donate books.
That's face paint.
Okay, so is that something
The
where?
third one from the top here.
Okay, okay, good. All right. That's, yeah, because I was, yeah, that's
Yep.
fine. Thank you. I'm
You're
good.
welcome. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So we at least have that. So with that, now that I've kept you really late, I do apologize, folks. I think we have the option to, we have the time on Wednesday. We could meet on Wednesday, or we could take a break. And we could come back early in January, at which time the entire appeals process would be done. And then work on getting to a final slate of grants to award, knowing that we've got quite a bit of work that we need to do to get the numbers in line. If everything's tallying correctly, I'm a little worried that it is or isn't, but again, I think we're at 77,525 is what we have that we'd like to award at a minimum. We'd like to award so much more. And so that puts us $17,000 over. Yeah, and these are all currency numbers and they are calculating correctly. So, as far as that goes at that time, I think we'd be in good shape. Maybe here's why I support kind of pausing here is I think we're going to be able to come back as a group and actually have everything kind of categorized nicely and neatly so that when we start, cutting some of the awards down a little bit, we can do it methodically and we can know why we're doing it. I might even be able to, and I talked last week about collaborating specifically with Bill and Rachel, who'd offered to help, kind of like as a subcommittee, like maybe we might have 3 different versions kind of to recommend, that if we did a methodical reduction around something about geography versus something about categories, like there might be a couple of different ways that we could look at it and present it to people. Will everyone be available early in January? What we can't do is not have a quorum.
What day?
Yeah, so,
Early January will be fine.
sorry, what was that?
Early January will be okay.
Thank you, Doe. Everyone meet Doe. Cody and I know.
I just driving done, so thank you.
So we're really, really happy to have you join us. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? I look
My
forward.
name is Do Kim. I just been here about 10 years, and then my kids going to school in Amherst. I just happy to join it this time. Thank you.
Yeah, and Doe actually did some work with a Brookline cultural festival that was what's it?
Yep.
Jewish community and the Korean community?
Yeah, Korean, yep.
Yep. All right, so here's the deal. Our final or our annual report is due January 16th.
Okay.
I am traveling, I guess for almost most of January, but I am around for the beginning of it. So my availability is going to be through yeah, we would have to have this all finalized absolutely no later than the 9th. So are all of you able to check your schedules right now, for instance, to say if you could meet? I've got multiple calendars here to check, just a second. Either Monday the 6th Maybe that's what we shoot for. Would a Monday meeting work for everyone?
So I'll be traveling on Monday. I might be able to make a 6 p.m. meeting.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm also in support of if we have to meet on Wednesday, I'm able to do that. Slash also January 8th. I should be able to do that day.
How many are in support of just going ahead and meeting on this Wednesday? Okay, yep. Anyone else? Hmm?
I'm fine with it, although you make good points, Julian.
Well, all right, the difference is we're just gonna be winging it when we get to Wednesday, because I've got no real time to dazzle you with with something carefully planned, but I'm okay with that. Yes.
I can make more Wednesday, sorry.
You cannot
No,
this Wednesday, no.
this Wednesday, no.
Have a quorum, do you know,
That's what we're working on right
So-
now.
So
Wednesday?
then I can join by like today, I can join by with just, maybe I'm going to drive at the moment, that's why.
Yeah,
I can,
yeah, I think, are you sworn in yet, though, at the town hall? Yeah,
I guess,
Okay,
no,
great.
I didn't. Yeah,
okay,
so I'll be that way.
okay. So,
So I can join by the Zoom meeting, like today, it'll be okay.
yeah, no, if you can join, that's great, but I think, right at this moment, I've got 4 of us with Cody joining late at 6:30, so we couldn't,
Okay, good.
we won't have a quorum until 6:30. Are you able to join at what
6:30.
time? But not earlier? I think I can ask
Yeah.
Angela to push it back to 6:30.
I have to leave right now, so
Okay, okay, thanks,
Okay.
Doe.
thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, then we will persevere and.
Yeah, let me,
Bye.
I thought he said he's not sworn in yet. Did I mishear him?
I think he is, yeah. And
Okay.
even at that, we have the 5 of us. And, to some extent, asking Doe to be ready to vote, because he's coming in at the tail end. As long as we have the 5 of us, I think we're good to do the vote. We've been through them, yes.
Julian, quickly, you had asked me earlier about the questionnaire results. Has everyone seen those already from the questionnaire results that show like the percentage of, this is something, a community survey we did, was it last year, a year ago? Like
Well, like a year and a half ago. I think what we want to do is
Oh.
actually lead with you presenting that before we do any more.
Okay, because so maybe Bill and Evelyn you're not familiar with that right now. So we did a community survey that I just put some basic questions together, referencing other LCC surveys and stuff. So, and there were only like 5 or 6 questions. And I think maybe before, I think what
Yeah.
Julian was looking at before we deliberate on the final grant decision, that we could just look at like what percentage of the people who responded thought these items were important, kind of thing, to maybe help us guide us deciding how to trim.
Yeah, I need a reminder on it too.
Okay, so
I need to see numbers for them to be real. Like if I'm not looking at them, they don't exist.
I think Wednesday, is it okay to present that even without the forum? It is, right? Because it's public information anyway. So I don't know what time you want to start on Wednesday. Let's put it that way. So I'm flexible.
Well, I could ask Angela to push it back a half hour because it's awkward, but social when we don't have a quorum. So I think let's each kind of get an extra half hour and start at 6:30. And that gets us around the quorum issue. And we're not going to need the whole time. Frankly, folks, we need to get this done in an hour
Is
on
it-
Wednesday.
Okay, so it's not okay to send people by email the results? Like at the meeting tonight, that's not allowed.
Why don't
by
we do this? Why don't you forward it to me?
Okay.
And then I've been a little kind of diligent about this just to make sure that we don't have commenting, but I'll do it like I've been doing, where I'll BCC everyone so that it's not possible to reply all to keep us
Right,
straight.
so if
That's been
anybody
working.
take a quick look at it, because, we've looked at it like a couple times before, but I'm sure everyone,
Yeah.
So it's just, so I think just to give you a general idea, and then we'll maybe.
Or Rachel, you can send it out and send it to me and BCC everyone else, or do you not have everyone's
I don't
emails?
have everyone, so I'll just send it to you, right, to the chair email address.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I probably need to correct it so that everybody has everybody's emails. So go ahead and send it. I'll figure that out.
Have other people's emails, right?
What's that?
Since you BCC us all, we don't have each other's emails necessarily.
Yeah, it's not about you guys not having each other's
Oh, I
emails.
know, I
Yeah.
understand.
So
Okay,
I'll send an email to put you all in touch.
and I will.
But just
okay.
don't have any massive chats about things, that, if you just want to talk about things that we're not talking about here, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you all. Thank you for staying really late.
Thank
You
you.
guys are the greatest.
Right.
With that.
I'll
All
see
right.
you guys Wednesday.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.